Road rage gets ugly in a hurry, but this time, instant justice hits back hard. Watch how this reckless driver gets exactly what they deserve. Speedy Gonzalez didn't appreciate being stuck in slow traffic, and although he admits road conditions weren't ideal, he still wanted to drive faster. When he saw a white Jetta passing everyone, he decided to follow it around traffic. Suddenly, the Jetta driver slowed to a crawl, slower than the other traffic. Speedy decided to cut around the Jetta before being forced to stop for a red light. The Jetta driver didn't appreciate Speedy cutting him off, flashing his high beams to express his frustration. At the next intersection, the Jetta driver caught up to our submitter as he entered a turn lane and cut in front of him, but someone else noticed what was happening too. A police officer driving his SUV through the intersection lit up his party lights and gave the Jetta driver a helping of instant justice. This submitter was driving her Model Y across the Potomac River in Washington, D.C. when she witnessed a wild collision. A Chevy Silverado in the exit lane crashed into a Toyota Corolla before losing control and driving right off the side of the bridge. We weren't able to find any additional information about this collision, but we hope the pickup driver is okay. Remember, pay attention while driving. You never know when one minor mistake might manifest major mayhem. This submitter sent us his Teslacam footage of what he calls typical Florida drivers. He was driving through an intersection when a vehicle next to him T-boned a van. The Jeep Cherokee slammed into a Mercedes Sprinter, sending it rolling onto its side. It's unclear what the results of the collision were, but we hope everyone involved was okay. Seems like this guy is on his way to an awesome cookout. Hopefully he makes it without losing anything important from the back of his pickup. Actually, I've got a feeling that a key piece of equipment is about to go overboard. Now, who could have seen that coming? Looks like the guests at that pickup driver's cookout will be going hungry. Jim's niece was driving his Model Y as she approached an intersection at around 50 miles per hour. Suddenly, the driver of a red vehicle made a left turn without properly checking for oncoming traffic. She tried to swerve at the last moment, but she wasn't able to avoid a collision. The driver who hit her was taken care of by her parents, who arrived quickly since they lived nearby. Jim used the insurance settlement of $34,000 US, along with the proceeds from selling his Toyota Tacoma, to buy a brand new Cybertruck. Welcome to the Triangle Club, Jim. John's video is a great example of how not to make a U-turn in an intersection. A driver ahead of John was preparing to turn left when another driver from the straight-only lane suddenly decided to make a U-turn, causing a T-bone collision. What's really crazy is that all of this happened right in front of a police officer. The cop turned on the party lights, and since he'd witnessed the collision himself, John didn't even bother stopping to provide him with his Teslacam footage. James was driving his Cybertruck when he spotted a white Model Y being driven recklessly. First, the other Tesla driver cut across a double yellow line. James continued calmly while watching events unfold in his side view mirror, already planning his next move. When the Model Y driver tried to overtake James in the oncoming lane, James was ready and decided to block his pass. The Model Y driver cut him off anyway before briefly stopping and putting down his rear window. When the Model Y driver sped away, James turned into a parking lot and resumed his trip rather than continuing the Tesla on Tesla road rage. Charlie was driving his Tesla down a highway when the driver of a Toyota Camry suddenly crashed into stopped traffic. The Camry collided with the Tesla before spinning out and finally coming to a stop. Charlie kept driving, so he wasn't able to determine what happened to the involved drivers. Here's hoping they're both okay. Casey was headed to the grocery store for some food after finishing a workout at the gym. Suddenly, the driver of a Honda Accord pulled out in front of a Honda HR-V, causing a T-bone collision. Casey pulled over to make sure everyone was okay. Both involved drivers were shaken up, but they were grateful when Casey offered to send them his video footage of the collision. Lex was driving her Tesla in Dallas, Texas. As she stopped for a red light, another Tesla pulled up alongside her. Apparently, the other Tesla driver was in a real hurry because his next move was extremely reckless. Out of nowhere, the other driver accelerated through the red light, continuing like nothing had happened. Where's a cop when you need one? This guy got away with it, but don't worry because we've got instant justice coming up later in the episode. Tessa was driving one night with Autopilot engaged. Suddenly, a deer decided to, greet passing motorists. Thankfully, Autopilot noticed and slammed on the brakes as the deer leapt into the road. Deer, maybe wait to cross the road until there aren't any vehicles approaching. Muscle car versus Tesla. Who will win in this epic battle? Let's find out. Bradley was headed back to work in his Model Y as he approached an intersection and entered one of the left turn lanes. Suddenly, the driver of a Dodge Challenger changed his mind about turning right and cut across multiple lanes in front of a tanker truck to reach the same lane Bradley was already in. The Challenger sideswiped Bradley's Tesla just moments after he'd disabled full self-driving as he approached the intersection. Now, he wonders if FSD would have been able to prevent the collision. What do you think? Could FSD have made some evasive maneuver, or was Bradley doomed either way? Let him know your thoughts in the comments. The insurance claim process took months to resolve, but eventually almost $9,000 in repairs were completed on his Model Y. He also told us the Dodge driver's insurance provider was never again able to make contact with their customer, and the address listed on his policy led to an empty field in the middle of nowhere. Diego was on his way home after drag racing his Tesla Model 3 Performance when he had a shocking experience. While driving down a highway, the driver of a Kia Sportage in the passing lane suddenly dove for an exit, nearly colliding with another vehicle. Diego wasn't sure if the Kia had made contact with his Tesla, so he followed it long enough to get its license plate number. Thankfully, when he got home, he wasn't able to find any damage, making this nothing more than an incredibly close call. While Chris was driving his Cybertruck one night, he approached a red light, slowing to a roll until it turned green. As he accelerated into the intersection, an oncoming driver did the same. Without yielding, the oncoming driver turned across Chris's lane. He jerked the steering wheel to avoid a collision before pulling over to check for any damage. Thankfully, the two vehicles had missed each other by inches, and he'd escaped the situation unscathed. Gary was driving his Model Y down a highway with full self-driving engaged. As FSD began merging into the lane on his right, it suddenly aborted the lane change. Unbeknownst to Gary, another driver had begun merging into the same lane at the same time, and FSD had just avoided a sideswipe collision. Thankfully, FSD was paying better attention than the other driver, who clearly hadn't noticed that Gary had already begun changing lanes. Zion sent us this perfect example showing why you should never run a stop sign. A white minivan collided with an approaching SUV. Even though the impact was brutal, Zion told us neither driver was seriously injured. One occupant of the SUV, an elderly woman, was taken to a hospital to be checked out. Love it or hate it, there's one thing about full self-driving that nobody can deny. Using it sure does result in some exciting experiences. This video is a great example. Nick was using FSD when an eagle landed on the road ahead of him. The eagle immediately took off again as Nick grabbed the wheel and took manual control. It seems like that eagle might need to go back to flying school to learn not to fly into traffic. Did you know that shopping carts have their own version of FSD? We call it the cart demon, and this submitter spotted it in action. He was sitting in his Tesla when he saw two women approaching with a shopping cart. They let the shopping cart collide with his Tesla before they realized he was inside it. Check out their shocked expressions once they spotted him inside. The two women practically sprinted away after realizing that they were caught. Our submitter told us he's now trying to get the store's surveillance footage, and he plans to hold the women accountable for their carelessness. Justice delayed is justice denied, but nothing is more satisfying than reckless drivers getting instant justice. A driver took to the shoulder to bypass a traffic jam, speeding past our submitter's Tesla. They didn't get far before being spotted by a cop who was more than happy to give them a helping of instant justice. You'll love to see it. Paul was leaving work when he witnessed an incredibly irresponsible driver. He was preparing to make a left turn as he approached a green light. Suddenly, a driver running their red light from Paul's left completely blocked his path forward. Paul told us, had there been anyone in the straight lanes at the time, they surely would have collided with the Toyota. Thankfully, this was only a close call, but please, never ever do this. Making a right on red without stopping is illegal, and so is making a U-turn in the middle of a street. If your light is red, just stop and wait your turn.